Welcome to Break Free from Corporate, the only podcast dedicated to bringing you business success secrets from leading entrepreneurs with one thing in common. They left the corporate world, became their own boss, and are now living incredible lives. To access previous and all future episodes, visit breakfreefromcorporate.com and subscribe today.
Well, hello, everyone. This is Gavin Sequeira here, and I'm really excited to bring you another podcast to the Break Free from Corporate podcast show. And today I have a special guest with me. His name is Dave Henning. And Dave is originally from the U.S., but he lives in a beautiful part of the world called Costa Rica. He's going to tell us a little bit about that. And Dave is the founder of the Fresh Start Company, and he's also a #1 best-selling author on the power of encouragement. I'm excited because Dave brings a lot of experience on this call, guys, and he's an experienced podcaster himself. He, with the Fresh Start podcast, he's a voice actor, so he's going to sound a lot better than I do. He's a John Maxwell team executive coach. I'm a big fan of the John Maxwell leadership program. He's also a motivational speaker. He served as an instructor at the famous Connecticut School of Broadcasting. So this guy knows a thing or two about, talking to people and being out in the public eye. He's got over 40 years in helping small business owners right across Canada and the US to grow and protect their businesses. His radio career, that's right, he's been in the radio business, spans over 3 decades in New York, Boston, Kansas City, San Francisco, so all the major markets really. And he's passionate about serving on the board of directors for 3, not 1 or 2, but 3 nonprofits that are making a difference in people's lives. I'm really excited to have Dave on. He's also a national trainer, teaches retirement, passive residual income for life, and a whole bunch of other things. So Dave, hey, listen, if you're there, my friend, welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you so much, Gavin. Good to be with you again. We met some time ago on my podcast, and it was really exciting what you had to share with people, because we have a very similar path in many ways.
That's right. That's right. So listen, I'm excited to talk to you again, and this is how we connect. Either you jump on my podcast, I jump on yours, or we connect through mutual friends. But the great thing is now we're connected. We're on opposite sides of the world. I'm in Australia. You're in the northern part of the Americas, and but yet we can share some great information that's going to change people's lives. So are you ready to get into it?
I really am. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So one of the things our listeners really love on this show, Dave, is they want to hear people's stories. They want to hear, where did people start from? How did they get started on their journey? What were the challenges and things that they have to go through? So I'd love to know, because your background is so diverse and you've done so many great things. How did it all start for you? Where did you start? What were your humble beginnings? And kind of just walk us through a little bit on how you got to where you are today. And I'll sort of jump in and ask you a few things around that.
Well, I started out as a child, as some comedian once said. I grew up in Rochester, New York, and it was a great experience growing up there. And I ended up giving college a shot up in Boston when I was right out of high school, a little bit too young, and so I went back home, worked for the Kodak factory when they're still manufacturing a lot of film, and took some courses at the University of Rochester. I was getting old. I was 21 years old, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm getting old. I better finish college. I was 21, right? Right. So I was too embarrassed to go back to the college in Boston because. They're up there. It's a little small private school on the South Shore of Boston. They were competing with Boston University and Boston College and Harvard and all these schools. And I was a little intimidated as a young man and kind of working 3 jobs. So I had to take some help to stay awake during class. Let me just put it that way. So I ended up, a friend of mine had gone to a sister school down in Oklahoma. I'd never been west of the Mississippi River. And I just launched out and drove all the way down there from Rochester and ended up that there were a lot of my professors were actually Yankees from the Northland that had actually gone to school in Pennsylvania and in Boston University, in fact. And so I was concerned about culture shock, going to the South. I'd been there once before to visit my aunt and uncle in Arkansas, but other than that, I had no clue. But as it turned out, it was a great experience. And then my senior year, somebody says, "Hey, you should go up to you should move to Kansas City and go to graduate school." Okay. Well, in the meantime, I had when I was in high school, I had this dream of being a rock and roll disc jockey, and that's the day when an old farm radio station in Chicago became the first kind of the Beatles invasion, the British invasion rock and roll station called WLS, and I had a little radio. I'm aging myself now. That I could pick up hundreds of miles away late at night with this WLS radio station. Became very famous over the years. So that was my dream. I had a few months in the summertime to go to this broadcasting school at a famous station, the WKY Oklahoma City, where Walter Cronkite, and famous newsman, was on the radio back then, and Merv Griffin, and the guy that did all those games. They worked at this station, and there was a disc jockey named Johnny Dark, and his show was called Dark in the Morning. And so I took a crash course. Back then, you actually had to have an FCC federal license even to be a disc jockey, and you had to take this math and be able to triangulate the radio towers and do all this interesting stuff. So I had to go. Back then, they didn't have the federal building. We drove down to Dallas to take that test, get a little piece of paper that I brought with me to Kansas City. And but what Johnny did was he had a little strip mall, and he showed us how to run. Back then, it was turntables and cart machines and vinyl records. So
Amazing,
he
right?
taught us how to use. He taught us how to use all that equipment, and when I got to graduate school, they actually had a semester course where you could actually have a little radio show in like late at night, probably like a little 10-watt station above the chapel in this seminary. And so I did that, and I searched around for a station where I could get a job, and that's how I landed my first morning drive show in Kansas City. And unbeknownst to me, I actually was relatively famous and didn't know it. So I did some talk shows on that, which actually prepared me for what I'm doing now with the podcast. It's basically a radio talk show in a podcast format. And I've always been interested in the internet. But to answer your question more directly, I've had corporate jobs, and I've worked for myself, and I really like working for myself because number one, I can't get fired, and I'm psychologically unemployable. I like I have a pretty high risk tolerance, which can be dangerous sometimes when it comes to credit cards, for example. But nevertheless,
I totally hear you. I tried both things as well. I've worked for others and I've worked for myself. I got to tell you, it's a lot more fun working for yourself. At the same time, it's also challenging working for yourself because you've really got to keep yourself accountable. You've got to keep yourself going, and there's a lot more to it. But hey, like you, I think I'm probably unemployable at this stage because I just have too much fun, But I love your story because it sounds like you really went through a bit of a journey to discover, what it is you enjoy doing, and you figured out early on that you got into this whole disc jockey radio business, and even you didn't know that you were famous, right? But you did some hard work to get there because these were the days before the internet. These are the days before mobile phones and all of that. So you did it the old-fashioned way, right?
That's exactly right. And I shared with you earlier, part of my story is that I used to build houses in New England in the dead of winter with some friends of mine,
right,
wearing a snowmobile suit. And I've owned a carpet cleaning business and a Service Master franchise business. And I've been a general manager for some very big cleaning companies. And I sold Valpak coupons. And so I've had an insurance agency and a mortgage license, which kind of went out in the Great Recession of 2008 that kind of became worthless. So you live and learn, but all that experience adds up, Gavin, doesn't it? It adds up big time. And here we are in this season of our life. I've been on a podcast for probably about 12 or 15 years.
Wow.
But the platform that I'm on now is so cool that it, like kind of what you do, it syndicates me all over the place, you know, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, all that stuff.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I love the fact that, you know, you are doing something you love, something you're passionate about. You're using the skills that you've kind of nurtured throughout your career. It's not like you're doing something that's out of tune or out of integrity, or, you know, you're not being inauthentic. You're basically doing what you've always done. You know, you're serving others. I read your profile, not just the bio that we had, but, you know, I've read a little bit about you on LinkedIn and on other places as well, Dave. And I can tell that you're someone who really is passionate about helping make a difference in people's lives. So, you know, talk to us a little bit about how that thinking inspired you to do all these different jobs and careers that you've had, because you got into insurance and you got into all these other areas. What made you get into, for example, the insurance industry, or, you know, like even when you were in the cleaning businesses, you know, what possessed you to get into that?
Well, that's an interesting story. A friend of mine that we were golf buddies, and he encouraged me. He had him and his friend started an insurance agency, and they invited me to. He was actually a golfing buddy of mine. So he says, "Dave, why don't you check this out? You can get a couple of licenses." And I was contracted as an independent agent with like 29 of all the big name life and health insurance companies, and so I had to take a lot of classes and get so many credits every year. So that was why I did that, and actually, to answer your question on a little bit deeper level, I've always been super passionate about helping small business owners, because in the radio business and in other things that I've done, to see them have success, you know, I really actually like seeing other people's success. There's no jealousy motive. There's, you know, somebody's going to steal my information kind of thing. So really, what I wanted to do today was kind of share from that angle, based on the fact that all those businesses went by the wayside, because really in the next 30 minutes, I would really like to show small business owners how to really eliminate expensive legal fees and protect and grow their small businesses and pay off their credit cards and make potentially an extra six-figure income part-time in 4 hours a week that automatically pays you over and over again every year. Wouldn't that be helpful if we knew how to do that, right? Most people, Gavin, talking around. So stick around and prove me wrong if you are serious and not just curious. This isn't for everyone, and I'll explain that if I may. It may or may not be for any of our listeners, but I encourage them to stick around, and I've got a free gift for each of them at the end of the show. And at the end, I've also got a link for a free 15-minute business conversation with me, and that's something that normally, as a John Maxwell coach, I would charge a quite amount of money, but I'm giving this away for free as a gift to your listeners. I love doing that.
That's fantastic. That's great. So yeah, look, we'll definitely be sharing a lot of that throughout the call. And you know, I want to pick your brain, you know, during the time that we have left, because obviously people on our podcast really want to know, you know, how did you make these transitions? For example, when you say you had all these different businesses and opportunities and all, you know, the typical person on our podcast is someone, Dave, that, you know, they're working a 9 to 5, right? They're working in a job. Maybe they've been in that for a couple of years. Maybe they've been in it for 25 years, right? And some of them are thinking, gee, Dave's life sounds so fantastic. Your life sounds so, you know, you guys get to do what you want. And I mean, how do I get there? Like, what's the first thing I need to do? Like, how do I change because I'm locked into a mortgage and I've got family commitments and I'm so busy and I haven't got the time to have a business on the side or even start something. What do you say to people like that? I mean, how do they, you know, what should they be thinking, or have you got any tips for how someone could even begin to make that transition?
Absolutely. I've invested in myself over the years. So that's number one. Mm-hmm. You've got to invest in yourself, and that could be basically for free on YouTube. Look up Les Brown, look up John Maxwell, look up Zig Ziglar, and study what they teach. Is the only way you're going to get past your own, mental hang-up, let's put it that way, is to invest in yourself and look at your own attitude. And when a positive, Dr. Norman Vincent Peale wrote the book Think and Grow Rich, because it's the space between our ears that we have to transform into thinking. It's not about get rich quick or any scams or schemes. It's not about that. It's about preparing yourself mentally. For example, as I mentioned, if I could show somebody in their part-time, very part-time, keep your day job, and how you could still have a direct deposit money coming in every week, part-time, until you're able to transition and get to the point that Gavin and I are. That's what it's all about. Here's why most people don't believe that a subscription plan for getting legal help is real. First of all, what I run into, some business owners think, well, if it's that cheap, it can't be real. Or you might be thinking, well, I tried an online legal service advertising on Google and it didn't work. And then you might be thinking, hey, it must be paralegals or inexperienced lawyers right out of college. How reliable can that be? It's more trustworthy to go sit in an attorney's office sitting behind a big, huge oak desk because you knew the guy who was a high school friend or something, or you want to keep the same lawyer long term, even if they only practice one area of law. And you actually think that the law is fair, which it is not, by the way, in your legal issue. And then, of course, I've got friends that think, well, you assume it's going to take way too long to get an answer, and you need an answer right now. So I like to tell your listeners, hey, look, I get it. If you're nodding your head in agreement here, I'm going to predict that you have had a legal problem with vendors or employees, but you haven't found the answer yet. You've had people who owe you money, and you've given up trying to get your money. Or maybe you're stressed out, just busy running your business. I get that too, especially now what's going on with businesses and last year, all that we experienced. Or maybe you do a Google search and you're staring at this long list of local lawyers, scratching your head thinking, well, who the heck do I trust? I personally, Gavin, have paid lawyers before by the hour who did nothing, got no results, and kept adding on hours, billing me for paper clips.
We all know people like that. At the end of the day, I always say to people jokingly, the only ones who win in a lot of these cases are the lawyers, because they get paid one way or the other. But what I'd like to focus on a little bit here, you're talking a fair bit about the legal stuff, right? And I can understand that's important for anyone to consider. A lot of our listeners, a lot of them haven't got a business yet. They're just starting off. They're thinking about getting a business, and there's a lot for them to consider. There's the legal side, there's the marketing side, there's the sales side, there's maybe distribution, there's all kinds of stuff, content creation, there's branding, there's this poor person now is utterly confused and probably thinking, this all just sounds too hard. Where do I start? And,
right.
What you do and with what I do and a few others, we show people the steps on how to get started in their business. Why is the legal side something they should consider from the very beginning? Or is it something that they should only really consider once they're set up?
Well, first of all, if they own business, you need a lawyer, and you need protection, especially nowadays. And quite frankly, as far as that component is, the Supreme Court building in the United States says equal justice under law, and the only justice you get is what you can afford. And so it's not fair and equal. And I have a company that can provide that for as little as $1 a day, including lawsuit protection and all the things that they would need to run a business once they start one. But secondly, we've been around for 50 years, and the reason I got into a lot of things to answer your earlier question, on the radio, on the kind of a radio expression, I listened to radio station WEIT. That stands for Whatever It Takes. Mm-hmm. I've always been willing to do my due diligence, to do my research, and I've done a lot of research and training. So what if, when you buy a franchise, it's a package deal where they give you all of the training the resources like McDonald's tells you how to flip the hamburgers, how much to put on them, everything. And so what if I showed somebody a way where you don't have to worry about branding or anything? You are given just like a franchise for this. You could sign up with my company for $50, and we will give you a replicating website that already has an autoresponder built in, already has the emails already written, already has a digital website that is branded to you. They do all the work for you, and you can start making money this week with it. So we pay direct deposit, as I mentioned to you, I believe previously, that there's a lot of stuff out there. Oh, do real estate, do Bitcoin, do this, do that. What if I could show you a company that has paid out over $50 billion, over 10 billion? I'm sorry, not 50 billion. 50 years old, they paid over $1 billion in commissions just in the last 10 years alone. Commissions and bonuses.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, whichever way you look at it. And obviously, the people that you're involved with and the business that you're involved with and the kind of work you're doing is reputable. It's helping a lot of people. I can clearly see why the need is there, and why our listeners should take this stuff really seriously, because you never want to be in a legal issue. You never want to have to call on that insurance company to make a claim, or you never want to. But isn't it good to have that protection? And I guess that's a fantastic message that you're sharing. Maybe what I'd love to hear from you at this stage, and I guess our listeners would like to know, obviously this is an important area that you're heavily focused on. Was there a time in your life or in your business or in your career where this was an issue for you, where you came across, legal issues and you needed that lawyer, or maybe you had to make that insurance claim and you wished you had done some of this stuff that you're now helping people with, that has kind of made it even more important for you to get this message out there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I just got a referral today for a guy that is going to court because he's under arrest because somebody stole his identity, and now he's being arrested because they think he's this other person. And wow. We have licensed private investigators that help us. Last year during COVID, I was on the employee benefits side of the fence. So we protect over 4 million families, as well as several thousands and thousands of small business owners around the United States and Canada. And just for example, to answer your letter, I hooked up a guy back in Charlotte, North Carolina. He owned a window company. There was and all of his customers were contractors. And somebody owed him over $15,000, way past 90 days past due, did not respond. So this person, I showed him how to sign up, pay his first month's payment, no contract of the subscription service, $99 to have a collection letter written. Now that's just one little piece of what he could get. Well, the same day he signed up, he called our law firm in Raleigh, North Carolina. They wrote a collection letter with like 39 lawyers' names across the top in every area of law. And like a week later, this customer comes in and strokes a check for $15,000 and got his bill current on a $99 first payment. Imagine how that customer of mine felt, and imagine how proud I was to have able to help him, generate $15,000 that was sitting out there that was his money. And then in regard to what you asked me, my last speeding ticket was in New Mexico maybe 7 years ago. For some odd reason, we decided to drive to West Texas to see family. On the way back, heading up towards Albuquerque. If you've been to New Mexico, it's like a desert on both sides of the road. I'm going a little bit fast, and a police officer pulls me over, gives me a ticket, and we have an app. We have an app where I can actually scan the ticket on the side of the road before I leave the shoulder, submit it to my law firm in Los Angeles. They found me a lawyer in Albuquerque to go to court for me, and I didn't have to go back to New Mexico or anything. I got a letter from him. The Honorable Buddy J. Hall has issued a 90-day deferred sentence. In other words, don't come back for 90 days. And you owe $80 court cost. That attorney in Albuquerque cost me nothing. My law firm in California cost me nothing. It's part of the plan. And I got no points on my license and no increase in my insurance. And, I had a cell phone that my own cell phone company was overcharging me. And you know how you call somebody up, let me talk to your supervisor, and you get all upset, right?
Mm-hmm.
and it does nothing. So I called my law firm in LA, and they wrote a letter to the legal department of this cell phone company in Dallas, Texas, to the president of the legal company. 1 week later, I got an email from the chief legal counsel of this mobile phone company. We're so sorry, Mr. Henning, that $400 will be deleted from your account. You don't owe it. So we had one of our members in San Francisco. He's a police officer. He gets an alert on his ID Shield app that says, "Are you buying a car in San Diego?" "No, I'm not." He calls up his private investigator. The private investigator actually tracked down the car dealership in San Diego, calls them up, and says, "Are those people still there?" They said, "Yes, they are." He said, "Stall them." He calls the San Diego Police Department and has them arrested. And this is within 30 minutes of this member of ours on an employee benefit plan, within 30 minutes of him getting an alert on his phone that somebody's trying to buy a car using his identity. Can you imagine that?
That's crazy. That's crazy. Look, I can only imagine. I mean, that hasn't happened over here, but I know it happens a lot in that part of the world. And you just got to be prepared, and you got to have people in your corner that can help you. So I totally hear what you're saying. I think it's great that you've got mechanisms in place to help you when things like this happen, because who do you turn to, right? So tell me something, Dave. Like, obviously, you've been around so many different businesses, you've been around so many different industries, and you've been around so many different people and all of that in your career. How important is it, when someone is getting started in business, or they're trying to establish themselves, that you form a community of like-minded people? I mean, we all say, being in business is very lonely, because you're trying to do everything yourself, and quite often you don't have the right support, and if you don't have people around you that get it, it can be hard, right? So, how important was that for you? And what would you say to our audience about finding your tribe, finding your community of people that get it?
Yeah, that is a great question. I heard this the other day. What is FUD? F-U-D.
Mm-hmm.
That is fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And you can overcome your fear and uncertainty if you get people around you are like-minded, as you said. But also, it's kind of like in sports. They say play with somebody that's better than you, and it kind of forces your game to do better. Same thing in business. Get around people that have already made the mistakes. Some of my podcasts have been very interesting, of people who, they were an overnight success after 20 years of failing and failing and winning and stuff. And I would also recommend, of course, Gavin, I would recommend you're the guy to talk to about breaking free from corporate, because you've done it and you've got your stories as well. And I highly recommend what you do to all of your listeners, because you're absolutely right. It's getting around people that want to see you succeed. As you know, there's some groups of people that aren't whether you succeed or not, and you might be getting bad advice from your family who doesn't know why are you doing this kind of thing.
That's so right. I mean, you hit the nail on the head there, Dave. There are a lot of people who will want to see you succeed, and there are some people who just are in it for themselves, and that's fine. You've got to make a choice on who you want to spend more time with. I say to people in our group, in our audience, my clients, people I talk to, at the end of the day, the only one who's going to look out for you is you. And if you start from there, you've got to now find people that are going to support you in your journey. And I think it's really, really critical, because you're going to have good times, you're going to have bad times. In the good times, you want to have people to celebrate your success. In the bad or tough times, challenging times, you need people who are going to support you and help you get past it. And likewise, you want to do the same for other people. I know you do that for a lot of people in what you do. So you're helping people all the time, and it comes back in spades, right? So on that note, for someone who is getting started in business, or is probably listening to this, and hopefully they're being inspired at this point to say, look, Dave has done all these amazing things, and Gavin, you've talked to so many people, and you yourself have done all these amazing things. I want to set a goal to do something like this, or maybe I want to put forth a vision on what my life could be like if I were to try a few things. Dave, how important is it that people have some sort of a vision or a goal for their life, for their plan, like put some sort of a plan for where they're heading?
Yeah, that is important, and I've heard it both ways. What's your 5-year goal? And then I've heard people say, no, you don't really need these long-term goals. You just have to have a vision for what is your purpose in life. There's a famous book out a few years ago by a guy in California somewhere, The Purpose-Driven Life. Right. And if you've got, I have a purpose because I had a son that had cerebral palsy, which got me very compassionate about people with disabilities. Mm-hmm. And so we've all got something that would make us think through what is my purpose. And I think you've got to just dig deep and look in the mirror, really, like Michael Jackson's song, "The Man in the Mirror."
That's right.
And try to identify it. And I want to throw out a myth. I made a pretty bold claim, and let me just backtrack briefly. That come on, 4 hours a week, and I could generate an additional or even my first 6-figure income part time. Let me just throw out a seed of faith, a seed thought into your head. I know a lady named Linda. She was the executive secretary for a major city, for the mayor of a major city on the West Coast, and she went in and asked for a raise. And the mayor said to her, "Sure, we'll give you a raise if you go back and get your MBA degree and pay for it yourself." She didn't like that idea, and so somebody had just told her about my company, and so all she had was her lunch hour and in the car to make some phone calls and just invite people to a free 20-30-minute explanation webinar, out of which literally on her lunch hour and in her car, that's all the time she had. Literally over time, and not very long time, she actually totally replaced her income working for the mayor of this major city, and replaced her income. And at that point, she left that business altogether, and this is all she does when she wants to work.
That's amazing. And when I listen to stories like that, I have a million as well, but what it tells me is it can be done. So when people sometimes tell me, Dave, look, I'm too busy. I just don't have the time. I've got family commitments. I've got young kids. I've got aging parents. I've got, maybe I've got a health condition or whatever. I live too far from the major city. I this and that. My internet's no good. People have all the excuses in the world, right? But what I love about that story you just shared was this lady just had her lunch break. And I honestly know people like that who literally had an hour a day, if that. Maybe they could manage 3-4 hours a week, and that's really pushing. They're doing 2 jobs. They got all these commitments, and but like you said earlier on the call, they made a choice. They made a choice to do something different. And like Albert Einstein always said, if you do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, that's the definition of insanity, right? So they decided to do something different, even if it was little, but over time it builds up and builds up, and they created a pathway for them to change their life. And I love that story that you just shared. So it is possible, right? That's what you're telling us. It's possible for everyone on this call.
Well, you can tell that I talk really fast. Number one, because I'm from New York, but not New York City. But then you can also, I talk really fast because I'm so passionate about what I discovered.
I hear this in your
and so the cool part is that I'm not looking for salespeople. I don't do sales. Great, that's perfect. This is just an invitation business. Wouldn't you agree, Gavin, that it's fair to say you don't know what you don't know.
Oh,
and
100%.
so all I ask is for an opportunity to share. I feel a moral obligation to share this information. And again, I always say, look, this may or may not be for you, but you might know somebody that I can help. Either way, won't hurt my feelings. And
Right.
so that's the invitation today is, look, just check it out. If it doesn't make sense, sure, that's fine. And if it does, you're gonna want to find out what you may have never heard of before.
That's right. We'll give you an opportunity to share the details on that, and we'll put it out there when we put our notes and everything, so people can look that up and get in touch with you. That's not a problem. So I get it. You're in the people business, right? And it's all about helping people, and you're helping people through people. And sometimes the people you talk to might not be the ones that directly are interested in what you have to offer, but they, like you said, they may know someone that is. And I come across people all the time who always say to me, "I'm not a salesperson. I'm not good at making calls. I'm not good at this. I'm not good at that." But everyone is in the referral business. Everyone, whether you know it or believe it, you are. I mean, when was the last time you watched a movie and you talked to someone about it? Or when was the last time maybe you bought something from the market or the grocery store or something, and you told someone, "Hey, did you know that this was available?" Or or whatever it might be, right? Or you bought a car, right? And you told your friends about it, or you told someone, that you bought a house. So, I mean, we talk about the things we do every day with the people around us. And this was a lesson I learned maybe 15, almost 20 years ago, which is, you need to share what you're doing with other people. Because if you don't share with other people what you're doing, you are the world's best kept secret. Would you agree, Dave?
I love that, Gavin. You are spot on. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. That's so true. We're all referring one way or another on about something, the latest Netflix movie or whatever,
That's right. And so one of the reasons I do this podcast series is I love connecting with people like yourself from all over the world, and we get to share stories, we get to share what we're doing, and hopefully, whoever's listening will resonate with one or more of those stories. Not everyone's going to like everything, and not everyone's going to get everything, but if there's one person who listens to one of these stories and goes, "Ooh," and it resonates and it clicks, then we've made a difference in that person's life. And this is part of the referral business that we're in, and this is part of the sharing and caring. So I appreciate what you do, and we'll give you an opportunity to share some links on how people can get in touch and all that. But what I want to do at this point, Dave, is just ask you. I want to get into this next section of our call, which is where we have a little bit of fun. It's called rapid response, and we just shoot out a few questions really quick from the hip, and you just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind, and there's no right or wrong, but this is just to kind of how you think on the spot. How does that sound?
This sounds very dangerous. I don't know, man.
You can take your time if you need to. That's okay. It's nothing.
I might say something.
No, you wouldn't shock our audience because we've heard everything. So we'll start with some really easy stuff. Like,
okay.
Like, how do you like to learn information? Like, what is your favorite mode of learning? How do you learn stuff?
YouTube videos.
Okay, fantastic. See, easy, right? Okay, so let's get into another area, which is, have you, Dave, got a favorite role model or a hero or someone? It could even be more than one person that you look up to, that you admire, someone that inspires you. If so, who would that be?
Well, certainly John Maxwell. I actually met him in 1988 in Boston.
Wow.
Before he wrote all his famous books, and we flew out of Logan Airport to San Diego and spent a private week in leadership with him at Skyline Church in San Diego before he was even well known like he is now. So John Maxwell, for sure, he's the real deal. He is who he sounds like and looks like. Yeah.
That is amazing. That is amazing. I've read his book. One of his books, and I've tried to watch as many things as I can of him. He's amazing. You've met the guy, so there you go. What we're literally 1 degree of separation right here from John Maxwell does. So, all right, now what about a favorite quote of is there a quote that you can think of, or that maybe it always sticks in the back of your mind? I know we talked about Albert Einstein earlier, but is there anything that just resonates with you?
Okay, yes, it's Tommy Hopkins, the famous California real estate guy who handed out shower hangers years ago at a Zig Ziglar meeting. Mm-hmm. And the famous quote is, you want the famous quote, do you?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Okay. I will win. I'll tell you why. I will win. I will tell you why. Because now I forgot.
Oh, you can paraphrase it if it comes to mind. Do you want to come back to that one?
I'll come back to that. Here we go. Okay. Because this is pretty memorable. Because this, I will win. Why? I'll tell you why. Because I have faith, courage, and enthusiasm. Today, I'll meet the right people in the right place at the right time for the betterment of all. I see opportunity in every challenge. I'm terrific at remembering names. When I fail, I look at what I did right, not at what I did wrong. I have clearly defined goals. I never take advice from anyone more messed up than I am. I've never let a negative thought enter my head. I am a winner, a contributor, and an achiever, and I believe in me. That's a long quote, brother.
That is probably the longest. No, actually, it is the longest quote we've had on the show. But I'll tell you what, that is fantastic. It reminds me a lot of when I did a Tony Robbins program, and he had something very similar, but it was more of an meditation. And he does it every single day. Amazing. But I love that quote. Thank you so much for sharing, and I'm glad you took your time about it, because that's amazing. Not many people would have heard. So that's great. Now, what about a...
Wait a minute. Do I win a prize? Do I win a prize, or the Guinness Book of World Records?
I think you entered the Break Free from Corporate podcast Book of Records for the longest quote ever. How about that? Okay. Right. So now let's get into maybe a cause, a charity, or like an institution or something that you support. I know you've done a lot of work with a lot of different people, and including with your own child. You mentioned the disability and things like that. What are you passionate about? Like, is there one or two causes that really you're really involved, or would like our listeners to get to know?
Yeah, absolutely. I was really blessed because to join my family in building schools in Kenya. I am super passionate about education, because educating yourself and not dissing history and just throwing away the past. Education is key, and in my opinion, for kids and young people to find out who they are and have a chance at a career and making a difference. So we started building schools in Kenya in the Maasai tribe years ago, maybe 16, 18 years ago, and now we're preschool through 8th grade. And in Kenya, you actually have to take a test to go to high school. Mm-hmm. And so in the past, these kids would have never even gone to school because they're in this remote area of the country. And it's called Kilgoris.org, KILGORIS.org. And like I say, we have about 75 qualified, certified Kenyan teachers. We have a Kenyan board, the United States Board of Directors. And so that's a long answer to a short question, but that's one of the things I'm passionate about, because seeing children get educated makes a huge difference in their life as well as in the life of the country, quite frankly.
100%. You couldn't be more right. And, I'm a big believer in education, and education, not just for children, for everyone, like even when you become an adult, education never stops, and so I think that is a wonderful cause. Thank you for sharing. And, hopefully, someone on the podcast is listening may want to contribute or be a part of that. That is really, really great. Now, how about you share something a little bit quirky about yourself that maybe not a lot of listeners know? So we've heard you tell us a bit about what you've done in the past and all, but is there anything that maybe you haven't shared with too many people that you'd be comfortable sharing with us on this podcast about yourself, or something you've done?
Oh, sure. Well, let me think here. Well, I've just so you know, as a result of 2008, I think was 2008 or was something. I've been through every recession except I don't go back to 1929. So,
and otherwise you'd be on another record on this show. That's for sure. Yeah.
So please understand when I say this. I've actually been through bankruptcy in the past, wow. And that's just that. Quite frankly, it's looked down upon, like, oh my gosh, you might have been an evil person or something. But same thing happened with the balloon mortgage scandal in 2008. My daughter and her husband had a brand new condo, and it was a nice mortgage rate for the first 5 years until that balloon kicked in the fifth year. It quadrupled their payments on their beautiful condo and 3 little kids, and so they had no choice but also in their situation to make changes and go into a renting kind of a scenario. So I don't have her permission actually to share that, but I don't want to share anything more than that. But I've been in that situation where you have to deal with things as they come up, and I've had failures and I've had successes, and it's all who was it? That's another quote. You might already know this quote, where it's the people with the most failures are the most successful.
Yeah, I love that. I can't remember who said that, but thank you for sharing that bit of personal information. We've had all kinds of things shared on the show, but I like that because what you're saying is, hey, you've been through life. You've got the battle scars to prove it. And if I were going to take advice from someone, I don't want to take advice from someone who's got a lot of letters after their name, because I've got letters after my name. I've got 2 degrees, an MBA, all of that. It doesn't mean anything if I don't have the experience to back it up or something that I've done to implement it and show that, this worked and that didn't work. And here are the reasons why. So thank you for sharing, that. And I'm glad that you weren't part of the 1929 recession. Otherwise, we'd be talking a lot slower on this call. I'll tell you that.
So we were talking about education and regarding my own personal education because my son was born premature, ended up with getting spinal meningitis and 3 surgeries in his first 3 months at the hospital, and I was working on my master's degree at that time, and because of I had to work anyway, so that's when I got into that radio gig to make some money. But the reason I tell you that is I had to suspend working on my master's degree in Kansas City, and it wasn't until years later, like almost 30 years later, that I was encouraged, go ahead and finish your master's degree. So I actually started it 30 years earlier. I had 62 graduate hours, and I finally finished it 30 years later and actually graduated with my master's degree.
Congratulations.
So I am highly educated. I am highly educated. How about
that? and even better than that is that you came back 30 years later and you got it done. You finished the job. And that's a great lesson for anyone that's listening. It's never too late. And if you start something, if you can, try to finish it. And most people start something and they never see it.
That's right. Mm-hmm. That's right. Gavin, it's the 2 P words: perseverance and persistence.
That's right.
You gotta force yourself to do that stuff. Get past your fears and persevere and be persistent, and changes will come, my friend.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I even heard someone say once, I think it was one of my mentors that said, business is, 90% perspiration and 10% education or something to that. It's hard work and effort and persistence.
Inspiration.
Right, and inspiration.
Yeah.
So, hey, as we sort of wrap up, Dave, on this call. By the way, I've enjoyed our chat, and I hope our listeners have enjoyed this as well. But what's next for you? Where what have you got in the works, and how can people get in touch with you if they want to reach out? Like you said, you were offering like a free consultation or chat or something like that. How do people get in touch with you, and where is this journey taking?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. I quite frankly, I did not expect to move back here to Costa Rica, and I've been living here for several months, and I was here 16 years ago. But that's the season of my life, and I'm working from here back in the United States doing this. But I'm offering a free small business 15-minute call directly with me, not my staff, not my assistant. I want business owners or family people or people thinking about starting a business. I want you to feel totally comfortable exploring how I can help you reach your goals to grow and protect your business or to start a business. It's DaveHenningonline.com, and my last name is spelled Henning, DaveHenningonline.com. Goes to my Calendly link, and I will gladly give you 15 minutes to chat with me. Ask all the questions you want. You can challenge me about my claim that you could actually make a fair amount of money in a few hours a week. That's fine. Anything you want to ask, anything you want to talk about, and we'll see if it makes sense for you to check out my free company information free webinar. It's 20 to 30 minutes Monday through Friday night, every night, with somebody different sharing their story of how starting their business worked for them.
Great.
Yeah, DaveHenningonline.com.
DaveHenningonline.com. Hey, Dave, that's a great offer, and that's a great thing. I would encourage our listeners to take it up and check it out. Have a chat to Dave. He's a likable guy, and you're going to learn something, that's for sure. And like we all talked about education. Education is all about learning something you didn't know before. And so if this is something that you'd like to explore, I highly encourage it. I think all of our guests have amazing things to share. You're no exception, Dave. So, hey, listen, I've really enjoyed you being a guest on our podcast. I hope you have fun.
I did. Thanks, Kevin. And I want to emphasize this is not a Dave Henning sales pitch. There's no sales pitch involved. I'll actually be just asking questions and seeing how I can help you. That's it. So wonderful. I just encourage people to go, I'll be glad to meet you at any time. But yeah, Gavin, it's been great. And, I just wanted to say that, can I tell you, Gavin, that I really want to thank you for having me here. I'm a big fan of your show, and I'm a real huge fan of what you do and what you've been doing for a number of years. You've created this amazing, coaching and training company that actually builds meaningful relationships and actually gets results. That's what I like, is results. So thank you for investing this time with me and your audience today. And did you have any other questions for me before we?
No, I'm all good. I'm actually really happy with how everything has turned out. So, hey, listen, Dave, from all of us at the Break Free from Corporate show, thank you, and we'll be in touch. All right, take care, buddy.
Thank you.
If you like this podcast and would like to understand a little bit more about what was just discussed, then you're in luck. Simply head over to breakfreefromcorporate.com, and we have a fantastic bonus gift waiting for you to download. All we ask in return is that you leave us a review on iTunes and or Stitcher, whichever you use. And lastly, help us share this podcast around with your friends, your colleagues, through Facebook, Twitter, Google+, or LinkedIn. We truly appreciate all your support, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to this podcast episode of Break Free from Corporate. Once again, to access previous and all future episodes, visit breakfreefromcorporate.com and subscribe today.